Cooper here with Stogie Geeks. We are at the Old Mecklenburg Brewery in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we have Mr. Rocky Patel. Rocky, welcome. Thank you. Yeah. And to my right is Stace Berkland.
Good to see you as well, buddy.
Yep, Rocky is here for an event here at Old Mecklenburg Brewery with the Tinderbox of the Carolinas, and we thank Craig Cass and his staff for making this possible. So, Rocky, welcome to Charlotte again.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, you've been on the road quite a bit?
I have, mostly in Washington, D.C. I think 4 weeks in a row fighting all this FDA regulation, and I've just learned I'm going back again Monday.
Yep, and we're going to definitely get into that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But
big event here tonight. We're kicking it off. I know there's a couple of new cigars that are actually launching in the Charlotte market. One is a new cigar called the Rocky Patel Special Edition, which I've had the opportunity to smoke it. Tell me a little about that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's going to be available. It's a limited cigar, only available in 200 of the finest retailers near you. Of course, the Tinderbox and Craig Cass have it. It's a Habano wrapper from Ecuador that's 8 years old, and it's got fillers from our farms in Esteli and Condega, and it's got 2 binders, medium to full, rich, complex, but really elegant, well balanced.
Excellent, excellent. And as far as that's going to go to some of your best retailers in the country, you said?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to go to the best retailers that Rocky Patel has in the country.
Awesome, awesome.
Rocky, we did see something out at the show this past year at IPCPR. Tell us a little bit about the Rocky 55th and the story behind the different Vitolas in that line.
So believe it or not, I'm 55 years old now. I can't believe it. I thought I was the new kid on the block in the cigar business, but I'm getting to be one of the old guys. So I turned 55 years old, and we basically made 4 sizes, and every Vitola is a 55 ring gauge in the center of the cigar. It's a special mold that we created. We spent about $35,000 just buying the molds. They were designed by Hamlet and myself. It's not quite a perfecto shape. They taper at the end, but they have kind of unique ends at both ends.
Okay.
With a 55 ring gauge in the middle. It's a really, really special wrapper from the San Andres region in Mexico.
Okay.
And then it's got 2 binders, a Connecticut and broadleaf binder, and then got fillers again from Esteli, Jalapa, and Condega. So I consider that a medium plus cigar. It's got a lot of flavor, some lingering white pepper. It's a very unique flavor profile for most of my cigars, but a really fun cigar to smoke.
And there's a lot of different sizes. I mean, this is one of your smaller sizes,
That's the smaller. Yeah, then it comes in a Robusto, comes in a Toro, and then also comes in a 7x55.
What?
So some very cool, fun sizes and very interesting shapes. Very difficult, hard cigar to make. Some of our best rollers in our factory in Esteli make this cigar.
Excellent. Now, I was at the trade show, and one thing that really excited me was a project that you showcased. It's called the Dark Dominican.
That's correct. It's our first Dominican.
That's what excited me about that. Yeah. So tell me about that.
Dominican cigar we've made in a long, long time. We're really excited about it. It's a Maduro wrapper, and it's got Dominican fillers. It's got Nicaraguan fillers in it. I would say that it's a true medium-bodied cigar. A lot of caramel, chocolate, coffee, and espresso, and that's going to be released in 2 or 3 weeks.
So it kind of gives you, now you have obviously your Honduran cigars.
Yes.
You have your factory in Nicaragua. Now this gives you another avenue with the Dominican Republic. What was kind of different about working in the Dominican?
Well, I worked in the Dominican Republic during the Indian tobacco days, and we were making the chimp and the baboon and all the Cameroon Legend cigars over there at that time with the Gusto Reyes, and so we haven't worked there in probably 16, 17 years. So it was nice to work there, and we worked on these blends a long time, and we're excited about this Dominican cigar because it tastes very different than anything that we make in the Rocky Patel line.
I'm really looking forward to that. That's kind of like, I just thought that was awesome when I saw it. And as far as how many sizes are going to come out in that?
I believe that cigar is going to come out in 3 sizes.
Excellent.
Rocky, I work part-time for Craig Cass a couple nights a week, and there's a special stick that you did for him, the Don Cassini 1939. I've smoked it. It's nice. It's smooth. It's got really complex flavors. I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about that special stick that you did for Craig.
Yeah, that's a Sumatra wrapper from Ecuador. Again, we're using Nicaraguan and Honduran fillers in that cigar. It's a nice medium-bodied cigar. It's got some rich tones to it, some underlying sweetness to it. A great cigar for a connoisseur or beginner.
Yeah. Comes in 3 sizes?
Yeah, it comes in 3 sizes, Robusto, Toro, and I believe it's a
Corona.
Corona.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah, and there were a lot of. This was a really good value price too. I thought for the cigar.
It's a great value.
Right.
It's a great cigar. I mean, you can't beat that cigar for the price.
I totally agree. Yeah.
If you've not tried a Don Cassini, try it. You get it
absolutely.
at the tinderbox, and it's great.
Absolutely. So just one more kind of set of things that you've come out with now. I saw this year you had a lot of focus on some Connecticut shade line extensions. The Catch 22's now got a Connecticut shade. The Howitzer's got a 7x70 in the Edge line, and of course the Prohibition Connecticut shade. So a lot of Connecticut shade this year.
Well, we decided that we didn't have, besides the Vintage 99, which is one of our top sellers. You know, that's the oldest Connecticut shade wrapper on the market. That's a 7-year-old Connecticut shade wrapper, 8-year-old Nicaraguan Dominican filler, 1 leaf of Brazilian Matafina, and that cigar is a really creamy, mild, smooth cigar. That if you like a really creamy, mild cigar, you're gonna love the 99. But the Howitzer is a special size. Typically, most people don't make a mild cigar in that size. Right. It's a great golfing cigar. It's part of our Edge line. The Edge Light is very popular. The beauty about the cigar is when you go golfing, you can sit it down for 15 minutes, pick it back up, it stays lit, it has nice long ash, very resistant in the wind, so that's great. And then of course in the Prohibition, we felt like we wanted to introduce something that is mild but has a lot of character, has a lot of flavor. So the one that comes in Prohibition has a lot of character, a lot of flavor for a Connecticut shade cigar. And then finally, the Catch 22 is probably our best value line. So that's a nice mild cigar at a great price point. So if you want to mow the lawn, if you just want to, hand out cigars to your friends, well, buy a Catch 22 because the construction's impeccable. It's made just like all our other cigars. It just happens to be a great value cigar.
And of course, in the line, you have one of your tried and trues, which is the 1999 Connecticut, which is still very, very popular cigar still.
It is. I mean, if for a morning cigar, for somebody who's a beginner, somebody who wants a cigar, if you've been smoking a lot of cigars and just want something mild and creamy and buttery, it's just a perfect cigar, perfect construction. I think it's the best Connecticut shade right there in the market right now.
Totally agree, totally agree. So that was all the great stuff you have. Anything else you wanted to mention that coming?
Well, I mean, I'm really, really excited, like I said, about the 55, and the Royale is doing great for us. The new special edition I'm excited about. And then, of course, one of my favorites, if you haven't tried it, the 20th anniversary. This cigar still rocks. It's along the taste profile of the decade. So, it's box press. It's got a lot of complexity, a lot of character, but it's smooth and balanced. So it delivers a lot of flavor. I think that cigar is perfect, again, for somebody, who's a great connoisseur, somebody who likes a lot of complexity, but likes a lot of balance.
I'll tell you what really rocked in that size, and I'm not a Lancero guy, but that Lancero, you knocked it out of the park with that one.
Packed with flavor.
Wow, and I'm not a Lancero guy, and that was my favorite size. So let's, I'll let you take the next one.
Okay, so Rocky, we're going to change gears just a little bit. Obama administration a while ago came out and said those traveling to Cuba can go down and bring back up to $100 worth of Cuban rum or Cuban cigars. Recently, he came back and lifted that and said, if you're traveling to either Cuba or really anywhere that sells Cuban cigars, as long as it's for personal consumption, you can buy a couple boxes, as much as you want, as long as it's for personal consumption. So Will and I, we've got friends in the industry, we're hearing people talking. I paraphrase it into like two camps, right? One camp thinks that, hey, we're easing relationships, it's getting a little bit better. There's another camp that says that's not the right way to get Cuban cigars into the United States. And I'm just curious what your angle is. Is it one of those two sides, or is there a third side that we haven't thought of, or what's your take on that?
Well, the interesting part about all this is that it's going to create a huge black market, okay? And I think what it does right now, it creates an antitrust problem, because here we are, manufacturers that make cigars in Nicaragua, Honduras, and Dominican Republic. Yep. Every time we import a cigar, we got to pay 41.2 cents per cigar in S-chip. Then we're going to have to pay these new user fees that the FDA is requiring us to do. On top of which, now we have to be FDA compliant. which means we have to have everything that they're proposing, from warning stickers to chemical testing to all the laundry list of 590 pages of ridiculous FDA regulations that they're imposing on us, which is going to cost us millions and millions of dollars just to stay alive in the business, and possibly even wipe out 50% of the entire premium cigar industry. So I think that it really creates an unfair environment for many of us have been working in the premium cigar industry for a very, very long time. So I think there needs to be a set of regulations where there's a level playing field. If you're going to allow Cuban cigars, well then they should be imposing the same sanctions that the FDA is imposing on us. They should have to pay the same duties to import them that we have to pay on our cigars, and they should then allow us to be able to go to Cuba and manufacture cigars and be able to grow and develop tobacco or possibly blend into our cigars. I just don't know how they're going to do this with the present FDA regulations. I don't think the administration has taken into account. They're imposing rules on an industry without analyzing the industry or knowing anything about it. They've taken the model that applies to cigarettes and try to apply it to premium cigars. It just doesn't work.
No,
it's
agree.
the equivalent of us going into Iraq, toppling the government without ever understanding what the consequences would be after. Sometimes you need a dictator when you got all these crazy groups fighting amongst each other. So it's a new topic that's come up. It's a topic our lawyers are working on to see what angle we have, what possible, how we can create a level playing field. So I think this is an off-the-cuff decision that really hasn't been well thought out.
Okay, great. Related question, not Cuban industry per se, but just Cuban cigars, Cuban mystique. You smoke a lot of cigars, I know, but do you ever entertain and smoke Cubans? And if so, which do you gravitate towards?
Well, I have. Listen, I was there. I was lucky to be invited to Havana, Cuba recently with Cigar Aficionado, and I was there for the Habanos Festival. I spent a week over there. I've certainly smoked Cuban cigars before in Europe and elsewhere. And, there's no doubt that Cuban tobacco is unique and distinct and different, just like Nicaraguan, Honduran, Dominican tobaccos. The problem is it's the forbidden fruit. There's a lot more hype than there is in the quality of the cigar. Unfortunately, they don't spend time in curing the tobacco and fermenting the tobacco. We ferment and cure our tobaccos for 2 to 4 years, depending on the primings. In Cuba, when I talked to Jose Ruiz and some of the great farmers down there, they basically spend 6 months in curing the tobacco, fermenting the tobacco. When you do that, the tobacco is holding all that fertilizer, the nitrogen, the boron, potassium, magnesium. So when you smoke halfway through the cigar, it gets sour, it gets bitter, it gets that ammonia taste. You notice with all my cigars, you can smoke them down to the very end. You don't get that ammonia, you don't get the bitter, you just get the natural taste of the tobacco. So they have very, very poor construction standards. They don't have quality control. I was shocked to see the lack of supervision in the factories. So people, when you're in a communist country there and barely surviving to feed yourself, they really don't care. There's no motivation from the top down. So unfortunately, the quality and consistency is not there. Having said that, when you do get some cigars that are privately made, that have had the right fermentation, that people save for their own taste or to hand out to their favorite people or customers, well, there's some very, very good ones. But that's few and far between. Unfortunately, most of the commercial product that I smoked while I was in Cuba was terrible. I mean, I don't think an American consumer would buy it. They might buy it the first time, but they certainly wouldn't buy it again. So, like I said, it's the forbidden fruit. Kind of when you couldn't get Coors beer east of the Rockies, everybody wanted it. So there were a couple of cigars that I smoked that were very, very good. The Diplomatica limited edition for Cuba, that was very, very nice. They had a Ramona Lunas limited edition, that was excellent. And then they had an H. Upmann, I want to say 50, or I forget the exact name.
The Magnum, H. Upmann Magnum?
H. Upmann Magnum, and that was very, very good.
Me too.
But overall, I found the cigars to be very young. The construction was very poor. Problems with the draw, and most importantly, I didn't think they were of the quality where I'd pay $6-7 and they're like $15, $18 to buy the cigars to smoke them. The fermentation wasn't there. From a cigar making perspective, we're very technical, we're very picky, so they have a long ways to go.
You did though from Cuba. You have on your team now. You have Hamlet, who's been in that. On that, obviously he was in the Cuban system for a long time. What have you learned from Hamlet since he's come on board your team?
Well, Hamlet is probably one of the best artisans in the world. I've never seen anybody that can basically, without a mold, take any few leaves of tobacco and make any size. Whether it's a Diamante, whether it's a Dirty Rat, whether it's the Culebres, he can just sit there with his pure hands and create a size. So he truly is an artist. He was one of the best rollers Cuba ever had. They sent him all over the world, from Australia to Hong Kong to Europe, Canada, to promote Cuban cigars, roll Cuban cigars. I think what's impressive is once he got a hold of Nicaraguan tobacco and tobaccos from our factory, from Honduras and everything, he's quite in shock himself at the level of quality of some of these other tobaccos, because he came here thinking Cuban tobacco was the best. I think he's changed his mind since then. I agree with him that if you do take the time with Cuban tobacco, it can be awesome. And unfortunately, they're just not given the time. So he was limited in his role as to what he could aspire to be in Cuba. And that's one of the reasons he left Cuba, because he had much bigger visions and goals. So it's been great, because Hamlet was in Nicaragua all last week working on the new Hamlet that's going to be coming out in the first quarter, blending the new Hamlet. And we're also working on a Hamlet cigar for Europe and Asia. So he certainly helped us with the sizes on the 55, creating unique sizes. So from a construction perfectionist, I've never met anybody better.
Yeah, I've seen him roll those giant Colibris, which is it's just amazing to watch someone do that.
And he's really spent a lot of time at the factories training the bunchers. He came back and goes, there's certain mistakes they're making. They need to do this, and they need to change this, and they need to do this, especially when they're making this size. How they bunch it in a tubular fashion, or if they bunch it in accordion fashion, where the leaf. So he's very particular in the construction of the cigars, and I think he's going to be a great benefit to the Rocky Patel family in helping us make even better cigars.
How did you guys meet? How did you and Hamlin meet?
So I was actually introduced to Hamlet by Rob Ayala from Australia and Rob from J.J. Fox in England. Rob from J.J. Fox gave me a call and he said, we've gathered a bunch of money. We know Hamlet. We love him. I know you have no idea who he is. We've decided that we're going to get him out of Cuba, him and his family. He's going to go to Niagara Falls, Canada. He's going to cross the border there and come into the United States. Once he comes in, will you please take care of him? And they said, you just have to trust us. You don't know him. He'll be the best asset you ever had. And so I got him in, and then we got him a house, we got him a car. He was working at Burn for a while, learning about all the other cigar brands besides Rocky Patel, including our brand, all the different blends. So he worked there for several months till he got all his paperwork and he got his green card and everything else. And then finally I was sending up tobaccos from the factory, so we'd sit there and make blends, in our conference room, and that's where we actually came out with the blend for the original Hamlet that's introduced now. Nice. And now he's become a regular part of the family.
That's a great story.
That's a great story. Yeah, I love the new Bala that's come out.
Yes,
Well, it was the event cigar that's now regular that everyone can get now, right?
Yeah, that's, he actually created the original Dirty Rat size that is now used by Drew Estate. I mean, that was created by him years ago for the Habanos people. And then he's come out with the Bala, which is a very unique size in the Hamlet Paradis line. If you haven't had opportunity to get one of those, try it.
Absolutely.
It's a very unusual size, and you're going to see a lot of more creative stuff coming from him. So, unfortunately, with the new FDA regulation, we had to get all these brands out before August 8th.
Right.
So, we built a portfolio of 1,470 SKUs. I think it's one of the largest portfolios anybody's built before August 8th to get it in the market. So we'd have a library for the rest of our career to introduce new cigars.
But what I've liked about what you've done is you've been very deliberate how you've been introducing these products. So you didn't just throw them all out in the market. Right now you're launching the special edition and the 55, and then the Dark Dominican's going to be coming. So I like the approach you're taking with that right now, not to oversaturate the consumer.
Yeah, I mean, we space it. You know, a lot of people say, well, you got so many lines, you got so many brands. Well, the reason we do is because I like to secure tobaccos from unique parts of the world. We're always searching for tobaccos that people have never used. So, for example, no one ever used Costa Rican Maduro tobacco or filler or wrapper. There's very little, and you know, the Edge Maduro is a Costa Rican Maduro wrapper. We were the first ones to really make a brand featuring the Costa Rican wrapper, and it's been a huge success for us. The fillers, for example, in the Edge line, you know, 50% is from Honduras. The other 50% we always said was from a secret country, and we call it Bangladesh. Well, it's not from Bangladesh, but it is from a country that nobody else uses tobacco from, and that's been the success to the Edge. That same tobacco is also in the Decade line. So, you know, we're always searching for tobaccos from unique places, fermenting it extra long, working with the tobacco. And so when I'll make 150 blends, and out of it, I might like 1 or 2 of them. And then I'll tinker with it, change the priming of the wrapper, change the priming of the filler binder. Sometimes it gets worse, sometimes it gets better. And then when we come up with something magical, and it's not like we have a team of people, I make the blends, and then I'll smoke it and I'll go, wow. And then I'll share with my brother, my cousin, a few of the people in the office that have a good palate. And sometimes we defer on which one's better, but ultimately I choose the one I think is best. And when we think it's good, we want to share with the market. Right. We don't have a marketing strategy at the company that says, okay, we need to make a cigar that is full-bodied at this price point, or a mild cigar at this price point. We just go out and blend. I mean, we're just tobacco guys that just like to make blends. And when we come out with something spectacular, we just want to share it, just like I'd want to share something if you made it, you know, and want to have it. So we're happy to share it with our customers.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Is there, like, back to the Cuban thing real quick, does it excite you to be able to work with Cuban tobacco in your blends?
Absolutely.
When that day happens?
Absolutely. Listen, when you have, it's like a chef in a kitchen. When you have new spices, new ingredients, fresh ingredients to work with, you can create a lot of dishes. I love to cook. I love to, you know, so it's the same thing with tobacco. When you get tobaccos that we've never been able to have the opportunity to work with, I'd be delighted to be able to make a blend with Cuban tobacco, work with Cuban tobacco, grow it properly under the proper conditions with the proper fermentation, the proper fertilization, the proper aging on the tobaccos, and then blend it the right way. I think we could come up with some really cool stuff.
So when we were just talking about FDA, you know, someone in the industry made a very interesting comment to me on Monday. They said, as cigars, the U.S. market is getting more regulated in terms of now, in order for you to produce a cigar, for retail to carry it, there's more and more regulations coming. And the opposite is happening on the Cuban end, where it seems like we've lifted the regulations and made it easier to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to catch up with the Cubans too, but the reality is that the FDA is pretty much imposing a prohibition death wish on us. Right. The rules that they've come out with are just so outrageous. It is going to cost us millions, tens of millions of dollars to actually comply within the next 2 years. So, for example, every single cigar we make probably has to go through what they call constituent testing. Okay, so they're going to be testing for certain toxins, whether it's nicotine, tar, carbon monoxide. There's several panels. The problem is that there are no machines that can identify and quantify a test that is accurate. So, for example, when I ship cigars by container and they travel through the oceans in the summer season, there's a lot of humidity that gathers in the cigars. We let the cigars rest for 6 to 8 weeks in our air-conditioned, humidified warehouse before we even release them in the market. In the winter, they get drier. So that affects the test of a cigar. The way I ferment the tobacco versus somebody else fermenting the tobacco, even though it might be the same tobacco, makes a big difference. When you have younger tobacco versus some of the aged tobaccos that we have, 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 years old, well, that's going to There's no way to control. It's not a cigarette where you press a button and it just kicks out the same product. It's a very unique product. The weather changes, the climate changes. You have too much rain in the farm one year, you have more sun another year, the temperature is different. There's so many variables that you can't make everything exactly the same. It's a handmade product that's very unique, that's very diverse, very distinct. So, you know, everything that they're trying to do makes no sense. You know, the burden is on the FDA to show that whatever rules and policies they implement have a health benefit that's clearly identifiable. Well, they have no research or data on premium cigars to show that they're a health hazard to any human beings. They have no data to show that if you have a box and you put a 40% of the box as a warning sticker versus 5% of the box as a warning sticker, that more or less people are going to smoke the cigar. So everything, all their science, all their data, everything is inaccurate. They basically haven't done any research, and they've just come up with these rules that they took from the cigarette book and applied to premium cigars, and it just doesn't work. And I'm just giving you a short list of all the crazy different things that we have to do. Product listings, product registrations, SC compliance. They made sure that you know, there are no new cigars allowed after 2007. So they're basically saying that every cigar that was released after 2007 has to be taken off the shelf, unless you can prove that the new cigar that was released after 2007 but re-released before August 8th of this year has to be substantially equivalent to the grandfathered product. What does substantial equivalence mean? Nobody even knows. Is it the country of origin? Is it the seed varietal? I mean, there is no logic to it. If you ask me to explain this to, you're probably confused already, to any layperson, there is no logic. You have a bunch of people sitting at FDA eating bags of potato chips, drinking Coca-Cola that are 350 pounds, and making these rules because they just hate life. And they've decided that they just want to regulate basically a cottage industry, that there's no youth access issues, an industry that by the time you plant a seedling in the ground, time you make a cigar takes 4 to 5 years, 300 different hands touch the tobacco, and it's enjoyed just like this craft beer, single malt scotch, or a bottle of wine, and it's enjoyed by adults without any health risks. I don't see the problem.
Rocky, you obviously have a lot of passion about this topic. I want to throw a question out related to what you just said, and that is that the FDA has thrown a lot of things at us, right? And I know that you're tightly in there, right? You're in Washington quite often. Craig Cass, IPCPR, there's a large group of you folks, Cigar Rights of America. A lot of people are up there lobbying Washington, trying to get our voice heard, right? Is there any glimmer of hope on anything that we can take as a small victory, or is it really coming at us and just trying to close the door and lock it up? What are your thoughts there?
It's a battle. There's 3 pathways. The first pathway is the legislative pathway, where we have a bill pending in Congress asking for an exemption for premium cigars. So we were, after 2.5 tough years of fighting, walking the halls, getting 230 some congressmen on our bill. We were finally, now that Boehner's gone, because Boehner kept blocking the bill. Ironically, every time we were trying to pass the bill, Boehner would put the language out of the bill, and he was in the pockets of Philip Morris. Ironically enough, 2.5 weeks ago, he just got appointed to the board of Philip Morris and got paid $1.5 million. So that should tell you something. So finally, we were able to move the bill out of the House and pass it through and got it to the Senate side. In the Senate side, we have some obstacles. We have some very anti-tobacco people like Senator Durbin from Illinois, Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut. You have Senator McConnell, who also is in the pockets of Philip Morris and Altria. I think he just got $20 million from them. So we have some hurdles to overcome. Recently, a few weeks ago, I met with Congressman, the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. We explained our dilemma to them, and we're hoping that this winter, sometime in December, that there'll be some sort of minibus or omnibus bills moving through, some spending that the government has to do, at which point during the lame duck session that there will be an agricultural appropriation bill where we can attach our language to it and get it through the Senate. The likelihood is around 10 to 20%. I'm not a probability guy, but it's a small likelihood considering the logjam in Washington, D.C. with anything moving through. So that's one pathway. The other pathway is that we filed a lawsuit. So both the retailers and the manufacturers together have gotten together, and we filed a lawsuit in D.C. District Court, and we're hopeful that there are some causes of action, specifically regarding option 2, where premium cigars are exempted. The other big cause of action is that the FDA had to clearly show that whatever regulations they promulgated have a clear public health benefit, and the detriment to an industry can be so great that it absolutely wipes out a major part of the industry. Well, in this case, it's going to wipe out almost 50% of the premium cigar industry, and they have not shown any facts or signs to show that their rulemaking process has any benefit to public health. So I think we have a strong case there. We have an issue with user fees that we feel very strongly about because e-cigarettes are exempted from user fees, but we're not. So there are certain causes of action that we feel that we have a strong case to make, and so we're hopeful, and that's the word I use, hopeful, that we can get a result there, and there'll be summary judgment motions filed soon, and we should get some sort of result, I'm thinking, in the spring of next year. And then the final pathway is what we call compliance, which is going to FDD, going to the Office of Management and Budget, pleading with them, showing them that their science is bad, showing them that their data is bad, that the rulemaking process is overly burdensome, and that we should be allowed to introduce new cigars in the future if we have substantial equivalence, and we can show them what substantial equivalence is. The irony again here is they came up with a statutory date of August 8, 2016, within which we had to release all our cigars for the rest of our lifetime. We rushed out and released them, but we had no idea what the rules were in making those cigars to make them substantially equivalent. It's the equivalent of me building a house, constructing the house, and then all of a sudden the local ordinances come out with the codes for what the house is supposed to be built on, and then you say, oh, sorry, you're not at code. Yeah, and the codes came out after you already constructed the house. So the whole thing is a total farce. It's not logical. It's a sham. It's amazing that we live in this free country, and this is what we have to face. And I tell Congress this all the time. I said, we have soldiers that go to Afghanistan and Iraq to fight for our personal freedoms and liberties as Americans, and they come back in body bags, they come back without arms and limbs, and here you are sitting in Washington, D.C. every day taking away those same fundamental rights and privileges that belong to adults. Shame on you.
And obviously now the soldiers cannot get recipients.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah. So we're no longer, as part of the FDA regulations, we can't give out any more free samples. We can't give out cigars to charities. And we used to send tons of cigars to our soldiers in Afghanistan and Iraq. When they'd come back from fighting, they light a campfire, they smoke cigars, they can't have alcohol. That's the only thing they look forward to. I mean, I got so many plaques and flags and letters and emails from soldiers saying thank you. This is what saved me. This is what I was looking forward to when I was in battle, to come back to camp, smoke a cigar. We've been to Fort Lejeune. We've been to, all the bases, Marine bases, Air Force bases, and now we're not even allowed to send cigars to our military. That's a total shame.
It's gotten a lot of press. Could that work in favor of maybe now getting some attention on the bigger issue in Washington?
We're trying. The problem is the system is so corrupt. Even though they might want to do the right thing, unless the leadership says it's the right thing to do, and unfortunately the leadership is in the pocket of Big Tobacco, and Big Tobacco donates so much money to their campaigns to keep them in power and then keep them elected, and unfortunately that's all they care about. So I hope somebody in Washington pays attention to this, because here you are taking away tens of thousands of jobs in this country and hundreds of thousands of jobs in Honduras, Nicaragua, and Dominican Republic. And these are countries where 70% of the workforce is single mothers. They survive on the entire cigar industry to feed each other. And when you take that away, you're going to see them growing cocaine, being in the drug trade, immigration problems. So it's a big underlying issue. And we're trying to take our message to them best we can. And I hope all of you join Cigar Rights of America. Our website is cigarrights.org to help out.
Absolutely. I got one more question, unless you have one. So this is a good question. It's not on So 3 cigars in your portfolio that are your like, I know which ones you like personally.
Yeah.
Some of your hidden gems, because there's something for everyone in the Rocky Patel portfolio. What are 3 cigars in your portfolio that are your hidden gems?
Well, I think one of them certainly is a cigar that you'll find in very few shops, but it's available widely, called the La Unica. It's got the green band on it. Just a beautiful, that cigar's got so much sweetness, so much flavor, and it's very well priced. I think the Royale, that's another hidden gem that most people don't pick up. And I think the cigar that's most forgotten, which I think is just phenomenal, and it was doing very well years ago when we came out with it, and we've introduced so many new brands that people have lost sight of it, is the 15th anniversary. I think the 15th anniversary is a great medium to full-bodied smoke. It's got a lot of caramel coffee undertones with some spice and pepper, and that cigar delivers every time.
Absolutely. Rocky, again, thanks for making some time. I'll let you get out to the event.
It's my pleasure. Great job that you're doing out here for the cigar industry. We really appreciate you educating everybody and bringing this news out to all the consumers. Thank you again. It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is Will and Stace with Rocky. We're tuning out. Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Stogie Geeks Show, episode 210 for this Monday, November 21st, 2016. Stace Berkland is here in Studio C in North Carolina. Mark, Riley, and Tyler manning the controls up at the Vilger North America Studios in Rhode Island. And we just got, Stace, you and I recorded that interview October 27th in Charlotte at the Old Mecklenburg Brewery. So there's been a few things that's happened since then. I just want to kind of make one comment. I had the Chris Christie look going on in there. I had a real headache, but a lot of people. I showed that video to a couple people raw, and I said, "Do I look like Chris Christie?" And they said, "Yeah, you had that Chris Christie look." Yeah, that was the reason for my Chris Christie look. I had a headache beforehand, but it actually got better as it went on.
Well, being the trooper that you are, you didn't even tell me you had a headache.
I didn't want to.
I had no clue.
No, I know. I figured I was stressing you enough. I know, and taking time as you did to do that interview, I was really glad to have you there.
I appreciate the opportunity.
But
a lot of fun.
So for folks who said, "Why didn't I ask him about the election?" I think that's why I want to make a point that was recorded prior to the election.
Yeah, absolutely.
So otherwise, I would have asked him point blank, will Rudy Giuliani save the cigar industry? Which again, I'm telling everyone, he's not going to do it. I'm sorry. So, I mean,
there's a lot more than just one person swinging a bat that's going to change that, right?
Yeah.
There's an awful lot that has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I really think people are trying to look at the glass half full in this case, and I get it. But as you and I were just talking right before we came back on the air, he's had 6 years to do something, and I love Rudy. I love Rudy, but because I've gotten a lot of mail on this. I'll say if anyone can give me the roadmap for what Rudy Giuliani's going to do, I'll give someone a very nice prize. So, honestly,
one of the things that I think, right, is that's in our favor is you have a Republican commander-in-chief, Republican House, Republican Senate. In my opinion, I think it would be a victory FDA is going to regulate, right? That's what they do. That we can't change that. I don't see that changing. Right. But I think a victory that is a viable victory would be move the predicate date, get it off 2007, and move it forward to the year that the bill is made active, which is 2016. There's that's 9 years, right? 9 years. I mean, I don't know all the manufacturers and how they keep their records, but I'd be shocked if manufacturers who have had product on the shelf since 2007 have the paperwork that detail everything that's in those sticks from 2000. I just don't see it.
We don't see it. I don't think they will. I think maybe in the last year people started doing that, but no, absolutely. So it was interesting because I don't know. First of all, before I kind of get into this point, I got to thank Tinderbox, Craig Cass, Steve Duke from Rocky Patel Cigars. To get
great guys.
Look, Rocky's a busy guy, all right. And Paul and I have interviewed Rocky before. Logistically, to pull off that interview, we had to make sure we got Rocky there on time. And what I don't want to do is take away from a retailer's event ever. So, and Craig's always been fantastic about that, and
he's a top-notch guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
and he helped make that happen. I'll just say that. He made sure we got Rocky.
And the people of OMB, they gave us a corner of the bar,
Right.
and they kept people away so we could have that corner. So
Turn
that
the
was
music
really nice
down.
of them.
And Uncle Wick Brewery. If you're ever visiting Charlotte, and you're a beer enthusiast, they have some
Craft beer enthusiasts, yeah.
Craft beer enthusiasts. You can go on a tour of the brewery there.
Yep.
They're not a sponsor of the show, but certainly they're great friends of the
They
show.
have so many different seasonal varietals, spring, summer, winter, fall. They're doing it all. And they're doing it with really good acclaim. I mean, they're getting good reviews.
Right.
On the stuff they do.
Right. So back to kind of with circling around the FDA, Steve Duke, who's the Rocky Patel regional manager for the Southeast,
Great guy.
he kind of comes to me beforehand and says, "Get Rocky going on the FDA. He's getting fired up. You got him at a good time." And you saw in that interview, Rocky Patel was fired up.
Absolutely
Was fired up. I kind of wish we could have did that interview this month because I think it would have been get the whole spin on the election. But I think there was an interesting thing I took out of that, the whole FDA thing, and it was the option he was talking about was is basically going in and sitting down with the FDA. I've heard a couple people say that, but I still, again, this may be something where the new administration helps, because if there's new people put into the FDA, which probably will happen, there'll be a new Secretary of Health and Human Services. Most likely there'll be a new FDA commissioner. I don't know that. I don't know what happens to Mitch Zeller, who's the guy who handles that. But that could be something where if those discussions happen, maybe that's something, but that's not going to undo the regulations. That's just going to maybe mitigate a blow here or there.
Yep.
And so
one of the things that, and just listening to the interview, I mean, when you're doing the interview, you're thinking about questions, listening to him so you can ask follow-up questions, but just listening back, there were a couple of quotes that he said, and the one that really hit me, and I guess I thought about it. If I thought about it, I kind of knew it. We all kind of know it, but you don't really think about it until you hear it, and that is that leadership is in the power of big tobacco.
Right.
And we can sit here and we can talk about this boutique or that boutique or whatever. On the grand scheme of things, in terms of commerce, right? That is a truism. That is a true statement, and I hope that we're able to not have monopolistic type entities come in. I want the small guy to have his stuff on the shelf just as readily as the large guy having his stuff on the shelf.
it's a really good point, Stace. You got to look at regulation, other regulated industries, and the pattern there.
Yep.
Airlines.
Yep.
What's happening in airlines? Consolidation. Cigarettes, consolidation.
Yep.
Pharmaceutical, consolidation.
Yep.
We're going to see this in our industry, with the cigar industry.
Yep.
And there's no question about it. I think the cigarette companies are going to see this as an opportunity. I think it will be I don't think in 2 years they'll have complete control. I think it'll be like a 10-year process. But you'll start to see that as it's happened with any industry that's regulated. And Rocky brought up a lot of points there. And there were a lot of things he hit on. He was talking about that quite a bit. So that was a very, very good takeaway. I agree with you on that.
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to ask him, but I didn't want to steer the conversation because we had so many talking points. I wish we could have settled a little bit more on the Cuban topic, just in terms of what the current president has done in terms of if you travel, you can bring back $100. Well, now he's lifted that. If you travel, you can buy as much as you want for personal consumption, right? And totally bypassing the whole commerce aspect of it, where we've got manufacturers from the Dominican, Nicaragua, Honduras, name the places, right? They all have to pay S-chip tax. They have to pay taxes. They have to pay all these things to play, and then, just kind of ignoring that. And I was really angry about it, but then we had a conversation, and it might have been with you, I don't recall, but we had a conversation and someone said, well, look, baby steps in the direction is at least getting Cubans in more people's hands, and maybe that is an okay short-term step, but the reality is we want to be able to have the Cuban sticks on the shelves for retailers, not because it's going to boom sales forever. I think the reality will set in, and people, in my opinion, you'll have a bump, it goes up, and then it'll come back down, and everybody's going to realize 6 months, 9 months, 12 months into having them that it's just another opportunity to smoke something different. They're not better or worse. It's just a different opportunity. Thoughts there?
Yeah, I didn't agree. I agree with what Rocky said, is that eventually it's going to catch up with the Cuban industry. So I think he's right on that, in terms of, but there is going to be some questions with the new president in terms of if President-elect Trump is going to roll some of those back, which he could. I don't think he will.
Right. Do you think Obama will try to rush lifting the embargo before he leaves?
It's got to go through Congress.
Well, I understand that, but will he try to push that? Or?
I don't think he will.
Okay.
I think he's going to have his hands full between now and then.
Yeah.
I'd say anything's possible. But he's going to have to go to a Republican-controlled House to do that.
Sure.
The thing is that I know a lot of retailers are really worried about the recent opening up. I like you said, I don't see this as a big problem. Where I see the problem is
not for retailers. Absolutely not.
Is the day the embargo gets lifted, and someone's going to be able to go buy Cuban cigars from the Netherlands or England, and there's not going to be anything to stop that. And I think that could start to put more attention on the future of the online cigar market.
Right.
So the other part I'll say about Rocky, we didn't ask him this question directly. I think he would be chomping at the bit, talking about how he likes to create these blends.
Yeah.
He'd be chomping at the bit to put some of this Cuban tobacco.
Absolutely.
I'm sure he's done it already somehow, but yeah.
No, and that's the key, where I was going to go with the other comment. It isn't so much about getting the Cuban sticks on the shelf, but think of all the blenders, whether it's a Don Pepin, right? Whether it's Paul Palmer, whether it's, insert anybody, Davidoff, Padron, anybody, right? Being able to reach up to your list of spices and to have tobaccos from countries that you've never had before to put into your own blends. That to me is the catch me up.
There was a point that I thought he said in this interview, and I don't remember him saying it in any, and I've heard a lot of Rocky interviews, maybe he said it and I missed it, but it was the part about the amount of, he's been under criticism for releasing a lot of brands.
Yeah.
And he's very cognizant of that.
Right.
And it came out, and he kind of gave a really interesting reason. Hey, I want to share his stuff.
Now he does like to blend.
He does like. I mean, I've been down to the factories now, and I went down there last year to Honduras and Nicaragua. They're high quality factories. There's a lot of attention to I could give you stories of some of the attention to detail that I have no reason to believe it's not a best practice day in and day out. I get that. I can see that. I think in recent years he's gotten better at, I want to say, streamlining his brands, aligning the brands a little better now.
Right.
Into some key lines. Like Edge has become a key line. Things like that. The he just released the Catch 22, and I know
budget stick.
The budget stick Decade. Again, he's kind of aligning these in there, which I think is better. That's going to kind of simplify the portfolio, maybe a little hierarchical piece in there.
Yeah, one of the things that he mentioned in the interview that I thought was interesting, and he didn't go into great detail, but his little discussion where he talked about during, not really the blending session, but they have a new line and they've got 4 or 3 or 5 different blends to choose from. And when he was talking about, you've got these blends and someone else thinks that this is great, he goes, but in the end, I'm going to go with what I think is the best blend. And I feel like he takes great pride in that, right? Whether it's the right decision or not, he's putting his name on it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, I think that's why sometimes you see these one-offs, right? He just came out with a new one-off of the Platinum, which is a Habano. And I'm sure it was probably something they were considering. They ended up going to our store with the Platinum. But I'm sure it was something they were probably considering. And I'm sure probably some of these, he's done some good house blends. I mean, the one that you guys have at Tinderbox,
the Don Cassini.
The Don Cassini 1939. I know I've talked about it on the show. It's an absolute premium cigar. We talked about it in the interview, actually.
Yeah, we did.
We actually talked about it in the interview. There again, there's some very good, premium wines. Rocky's, I think, aware of some of the criticisms he's had, but at the same time, I think sometimes we tend to look at more the negative. You always remember that negative, but there's a lot of positives that he's done as well.
Right. And if you take Rocky out of the picture for a second and just look at the market, right? every time you go to IPCPR, what are people asking about?
What's new?
Yeah, they're asking about what's new. Right. So, if Rocky had 3 or 4 lines and just that's all he had, right, that would be one thing. But, he understands that from a marketing perspective, that's what we, the consumers, are asking for. So if we're always asking for what's new, then, I get the idea of throwing it. Now, do I think that there's a line between, too many? Yeah, obviously, and maybe he's starting to realize that now, but I understand why he did that. It's because the consumers are wanting something new.
No, I definitely agree with that. I'll put this question on you, because this is one I threw it in at the end. I didn't tell you I was doing it. Was the 3 hidden Rocky Patel. What are the 3 gems that you would say that are the kind of those hidden nuggets in there that people probably have forgotten about, that are some of these great blends?
On Rockies?
On Rocky Patel. Yeah.
So, and I didn't know you were going to ask this, so...
I'm putting you on the spot.
That's all right.
I'll leave you mine.
No, that's okay. Don't hold me to them in terms of being my best ultimate, but I'm going to throw sticks out that A, I have smoked and enjoyed, B, I will gladly smoke it if there's an offering and I see one and it's a Rocky brand, I will smoke these. I think the Rocky, the 1990, is a really nice cigar staple.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do that in the box press.
The black label, right? It's the black vintage?
The purple.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
90 or 92? Maybe I got those backwards. 92.
Is it the Maduro?
It's the purple. It's the purple and the Maduro.
Okay, okay. Yeah. It's probably me who got this.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. There's that one. I was a big fan of this Rocky stick, and it went away. His Old World.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was really good.
That would come back, yeah.
Yeah, but to flop that out because that's no longer here. I like the 15th anniversary, and I know he mentioned that, but I think it's a really good cigar as well. If I'm looking for something a little different, he's got that A10, that little barber pole. The Rocky A10 is barber pole. Maybe people forgot about that one. I don't know. That's 2 or 3.
Yeah. No, I think the 3 I would go with is the vintage 2003 Cameron.
Oh yeah. The blue label.
Blue label one.
Yeah, that's a nice stick.
I think that was an absolute fantastic cigar. Yeah. The second one I would go with, and this one may be a little bit of a stretch, is the Decade Cameron. Sorry, Decade Cameron.
Yeah.
So I think the Decade Cameron was another Cameron release he did. I think it really, really flew under the radar as far as
I like the Decade Maduro.
The Decade Maduro was very good too. I mean, the Pennsylvania one he did?
Yep.
Yeah, that was excellent too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an awful lot out there. I'm trying to run through.
I'm gonna go. Another one was the 226.
Oh yeah.
The limited one he did. Yeah,
he did. That was
2013. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the Rocky Patel 50 was outstanding. I think it's one of the best, but you can't get that one anymore.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. You know that from college football, I like the Tennessee Volunteers.
Right.
So I saw the orange on it, and I was all over it, right? And the price point, it was I think $25 at the time. Wasn't that about right?
I think it was now. I don't think it was high, but I don't think it was that high. But there was actually the orange was the 14 version. The 13 was the black and white.
Okay, yeah. I'm talking about the orange.
But the orange. Yeah, but
I smoked it and I liked it, but the price point kind of took me off of it.
Yeah, I think the 13 one, which was the black label release, I thought it was a little better as well. The other one I'll say, good value stick, is the Freedom. That I don't know. I don't hear a lot about that one anymore.
I don't hear a lot about that either. Since we were talking about the Fomorian Candela, don't forget he did an Edge Candela.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, remember that?
Oh, and they still make it. That's a really good one as well.
I keep forgetting that's in the Edge line.
Here's the thing. Back to that A10. So I was down in Honduras last year when they were coming out with that, and I got one off the factory floor. I kind of did the wrong thing with it. Waited 2 days to smoke it. Oh,
you didn't like it, did you?
I didn't like it.
Okay.
When they shipped, I was really pleased with that cigar.
Totally
I mean, it was really a fun cigar to smoke. I love the packaging that they did on that as well. Yeah. The other thing I'll just say is, just on Rocky himself, I've actually kind of gotten to know Rocky a little more one-on-one, probably for the first time since I've been doing this. I mean, I've been with Rocky before. He knows who I am. but in the last year, I've had a little more, I'd say, of a direct connection with Rocky. And when you get to know this guy, this is who he is. I mean, the guy you see at the events, that's how he is.
Well, and the
he's
guy
accessible, when things
the
like
guy's
that.
taking time to go to Washington to fight for something he loves, right? Whether you like the sticks or you don't like the sticks, whether he's got too many lines or the right number of offerings for you or not, put that aside for a second. This is a guy who's wearing his heart on his sleeve. He's going and fighting for something that he believes in, and I totally respect that. Yeah, a lot of respect for it.
I totally agree. Any other final thoughts?
No, dude, thanks so much for having me on here. And Paul, I hate that you're not feeling well. I hope I get a chance to do this when you're on.
You're back next week. Yeah, you're back next week.
Well, Paul's here.
You're here no matter. No, you're here no matter what next week.
Excellent. All right. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So let me just before we wrap up, I'll just give folks a preview of the calendar. We book a lot of our shows in advance, so just to kind of let you know, the 28th of November, we have Omar DeFrias of Fratello back on Stogie Geeks.
Nice.
December 5th, Mr. Phil Zengi makes a visit. December 12th, we have our buddy, another friend of the show, Jack Tarano. Always a blast with Jack.
Jack's fun.
December 19th, we have Miguel Chodel of Duran Cigars. That's the first time we're going to have Miguel on the show. And I've met Miguel. He's a fun guy as well. And him and Jack used to work together at Duran. We take a break on December 26th. We come back on January 2nd. We're tentatively going to, if we get the Padron interview in next week, which we look like we will, that will be when you come back, hopefully, and we'll do this again with Padron. And then this on January 9th, Danny Vasquez of Barracoa Cigar Company. So very just stay tuned as well. Thank you to our audience.
Great questions on the feed. I went back and started reading those.
Yeah. Again, great questions. We appreciate all the feedback. It's just, I know we had a little bit of a late start tonight, and I apologize for that as well. But, again, appreciate the support, and we'll see everyone next week.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.